Let me tell you a story that starts with cereal and ends with federal agents. I was mid-bite, halfway through a spoonful of Cinnamon Toast Crunch when I heard it, a low, mechanical buzz echoing from behind my bookshelf. At first, I thought maybe a squirrel had rented a jackhammer. But no, that was the moment I realized my neighbor, Brenda, had officially declared war on my Wi-Fi. Now, to understand how we got here, you need a little context. I live in a duplex in a picturesque little HOA-run neighborhood in Arizona. Picture beige houses, rigid lawn rules, and an HOA president who once sent a violation notice because someone's Halloween skeleton was too expressive. Brenda lived on the other side of my wall. She wasn't just that neighbor. She was the queen of HOA drama, the kind who held power over the HOA board because her late husband was one of the founding members. She leveraged that legacy like a scepter, walking around like she owned the block. And me? I was just the new guy who didn't show up to every HOA meeting or care that my recycling bin wasn't color-coordinated. The tension started small. She reported my solar lights for glare pollution. She left typed notes on my door about the aggressive tone of my doorbell chime. But the real showdown began when my internet started slowing to a crawl. Now I work in cybersecurity. I'm not exactly a turn it off and on again guy. I ran diagnostics, replaced my router, even called my ISP twice. But my network kept tanking at the weirdest times. Right when I'd start an encrypted video call or upload a massive file to a secure server, something was off. Then came the buzzing. First, faint, then louder. More rhythmic. I started suspecting sabotage, or at the very least, something sketchy. So I did what any overly prepared tech guy with trust issues and a $200 Amazon gift card would do. I installed a fiber optic inspection camera into the shared wall. And that's when I saw it. Behind the insulation, glowing like a neon confession, was an orange cable splitter connected to a repeater box. Not mine. The cable snaked through a freshly drilled hole, straight from Brenda's side of the duplex. She had drilled through my wall. I stared at the screen, dumbfounded. Not only was she stealing my internet, she had violated the property line, damaged the structure, and set up a low-grade signal siphon. All for free Wi-Fi. I didn't even get mad right away. I was just stunned by the sheer audacity. But this wasn't a situation where I could knock on her door and expect honesty. Brenda didn't play by the rules. She made them and twisted them when necessary. So I decided to fight back, but not with lawyers, with goats. Enter Project BLEOT. I built a low-frequency signal jammer, disguised it inside a dummy router, and paired it with a speaker module that played randomized goat bleats. Yes, goat bleats. The plan was genius, petty, and entirely legal. I replaced Brenda's repeater one night while she was outside, yelling at a UPS driver about stepping on her rosebed. The next morning, the chaos began. At 8:37 a.m., during her usual spiritual yoga via Zoom session, the first bleat echoed through her wall, a soft, confused "bah," then another, and another, some short, some drawn out, like a demon goat at karaoke night. Moments later, she was banging on my door, hair frizzy, yoga mat clutched like a weapon. "What did you do?" she barked. I blinked. Doing? I'm just enjoying my internet. There's something in the walls, she said. Some kind of animal. I nodded solemnly. Maybe a goat? Over the next week, Brenda spiraled. The sounds never came at the same time. Sometimes they were subtle. Sometimes they echoed like a haunted petting zoo. And to top it all off, I programmed any stolen internet connection from her devices to redirect to a looping goat video with flashing text. You shall not bleat. She started knocking on doors, asking neighbors if they heard the noises. One guy told her maybe it was her spirit animal trying to warn her. She didn't laugh. Then came the fallout. She filed a complaint with the HOA claiming I was operating unauthorized sonic equipment. The letter she taped to my door accused me of harboring livestock and disrupting the community signal. It was so ridiculous I read it twice. But instead of arguing, I sent the HOA a care package. 3 USB drives, diagrams of her illegal repeater, infrared camera footage of her drilling into the wall, timestamps, everything. 2 days later, the HOA quietly removed her complaint from my file. Brenda didn't know I'd preemptively blown up her defense, so she marched into the next HOA meeting with a stack of hand-drawn diagrams and demanded an emergency resolution. I wasn't there, but a friend on the landscaping committee sent me pictures. One showed Brenda in front of a whiteboard labeled the bleating. And then things got weird. She hired some guy off Craigslist, a frequency expert, who showed up with a DIY EMF detector made from copper wire and duct tape. He climbed her roof, waved a wand at the sky, and poked at her vents like he was exorcising Wi-Fi demons. He eventually ran out of the house, muttering something about interdimensional noise pollution. Still, Brenda wouldn't let go. 3 days later, the cops showed up at my door. Noise complaint, the officer said. Something about barn animals inside your house. I invited him in, showed him my spotless, goat-free home, and then casually handed him a copy of my surveillance footage. His eyes widened. She really drilled into your wall? He asked. Yep. And tried to siphon your internet? Yep. Well, that changes things. Turns out, Brenda's cheap repeater was misfiring signals onto emergency responder frequencies. The FCC got involved. One morning, a black SUV rolled up, and a man with a badge knocked on her door. Within hours, agents were pulling boxes of tech from her living room like they were dismantling a cyber crime ring. Her wall was taped off. Her window bore a seizure notice. And the neighborhood? Oh, the neighborhood thrived. Word spread fast. Rumors said she was raising illegal goats for a crypto scheme. Someone edited our neighborhood's Google Maps entry to label my place as Goat Signal HQ. Brenda tried one last time. She filed a civil suit against me for emotional trauma, sonic harassment, and symbolic manipulation via livestock. My lawyer framed her complaint, Comic Sans font and all, and sent it back with a goat sticker on the envelope. In court, she showed up in a neck brace, claimed the bleats caused spinal stress. I showed up in jeans with a single manila folder. Inside, footage, timestamps, and the FCC's official report. The judge dismissed her case with prejudice. 3 weeks later, a moving truck appeared in her driveway. No goodbye, just a long, bitter glare aimed at my house before she vanished. A day after she left, I got a box. No return address. Inside, a tiny plush goat wearing sunglasses with a button that made a blee sound when pressed. Taped to it was a sticky note that read, "For services rendered, long may you bleat." I placed it on my shelf, right next to the framed screenshot of the redirect page that said, "Goat alert, initiated," and I've kept the jammer. Still works. Still programmed. I don't plan to use it again. But let's just say, if the next Brenda shows up with a drill and bad intentions, this wall, it might just start bleating again. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever dealt with a neighbor who went way too far? Or a power-hungry HOA making life miserable? Drop your story in the comments. I know I'm not the only one with tales like this. Let's talk about it.